Good evening. It is 8:08, and at this time, this is a service of the Christian Hearts Christian Fellowship Online Ministry. I'm starting it now to where I do an 8:08 p.m. Saturday service and a Sunday morning service as I always do. So, as I always say, when you hear me speaking on the internet or watch me speaking on the internet, these audios and videos are my church service. So, when you listen to me talk or watch me talk, you are actually attending a church service of mine. So, you are my own. So, basically, it's like saying that as of now, the members of the church are online members. So in order to be a member of the church, just basically tune in to my videos and audios, and you will automatically have done what you have to do to be a member of the church. That's all it takes. That and the fact that you need to know about God and want to know about God. So as soon as you start wanting to know about God and Jesus, then you automatically have said that you want to be a member of this church. Anyways, I want to get into the service. If they ask you, what I talk about, say, sometimes he talks about random stuff, sometimes pinpointing stuff. It's different things, but he's doing it based on the God's Word. So, if I haven't told you yet, my name is Brother Isaac David Brigman, and sometimes I've been noticing, and this is about noticing things. Alright, you ever notice sometimes you'll be looking at you'll be either wearing sandals or be barefooted or something and see your feet and they look like they're a different color. And then after you see it in another light, it don't look like that color's there no more, like maybe it'll look dark or something. I think what that is just an optical illusion. Same with the devil. The devil does optical illusions himself. I mean, it says in the Bible he tried to tempt Jesus and he didn't succeed at it because Jesus is untemptable, basically. So you can't tempt Jesus. And Jesus knows this, but he lets you try anyway because he knows you're going to try anyway. And that's what makes me mad because now I do understand that there'll be some Saturday night services that will be a little earlier and some that will be directly at 8:08 p.m. But keep up with the schedule and you'll understand. Like tonight it is 8:08 p.m. when I started. Now another time it'll be something like a little earlier in the day. But just keep up with the schedule and you'll understand. But anyways, story goes, doesn't it sound ridiculous when the devil has tried to tempt you to do something you know you're not supposed to do, but you do it anyway because, hey, you're untemptable. You think you are, but we know good and well that the devil can tempt anybody. He can tempt any person, any place, anything. And I've tried to figure this out. How is it that we can sit here and say what we believe that we can do or not do, and yet it doesn't make any sense to say, oh, so you're saying that we're untemptable. No, we're not untemptable. We just don't get it that no one tried before hard enough to get the point across. Now, I do understand that if any of you hear me and you like what I'm doing and said that I ought to have my own church, well, the only reason why I don't already is because, that costs money and so far I have to basically leave it up to God and Jesus as to how I do this. But so far, what I've been compelled to do is to speak to y'all through the online church, and then if God sees fit for me to have a building church, he will provide it, regardless if it be a big building or a tiny building. I don't really have a preference in that, but let's get into what we're supposed to be getting into here. Okay, folks. Now, I know y'all think that I'm crazy because I do what I do, and I do it to a certain point. But no, I think that it's a good idea to talk about God. when you can and when you're supposed to, because a lot of people don't do it and won't do it because they're too scared to admit that they don't know God. If they knew God like you wanted them to, or like they should have, you wouldn't be where we are now about it. Now let's see. I'm gonna get somewhere here, and when I do, I want y'all to listen to what I'm saying. Now I may have harped on this before, but my point to doing it is God tells us that if we really have issues in a problem, or problem with issues in it, that we should keep on about a subject until we get it right. You know, like say, okay, you have a problem, so I'm going to do one to you. And what God is doing is He's saying that because we have these problems, He's saying that we need to, if we have these problems, we should take those problems and we should say, okay, keep on at these problems until we get them right. And don't stop until we do. Okay. Okay, it says here, this is Matthew 6. Be careful not to praise your righteousness in front of. Be careful not to parade your righteousness in front of people to be seen by them. Okay, what it means is if you're right and you know you're right and God knows you're right at something, what that means is if God has already deemed that something that is said or done is right, then your best bet is just don't go around acting like you're supposed to be parading it. You're supposed to be really going on and on about it. See, what God is saying is that if He tells us, hey, here's what you're right about and here's what you're wrong about, don't take the thing that He said you're right about and go, ooh, I'm so better than everybody else. No, that's parading it. Because they love to pray standing in the synagogues, in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by people. Well, there's good street corner preachers and there's bad ones. Okay, the good ones is they're knowing that if they don't get on the street corner, you won't find religion anywhere else. But there's the ones that decide, there's also them that decide to do this street corners or standing up in certain places and stuff to preach because they think they're better than you, because they think that they got something that you don't have and they want to show it to you in your face. There are those people, and when those people come along, you have to say, the good evangelists, the good preachers, and the good priests who go from street corner to street corner, who go to church, who go everywhere there is people and preach, those are good ones if they're doing what God told them to do. But if they're only doing it because they want to say, I'm better than you and I got to do it in the form of preaching, no, because that's not right. God says, preach everywhere only if you know it. If you don't know it, don't show it. Basically, it's like saying, when you start doing like that, you're showing your ignorance, basically. If you think about it. Then it says here, let's see here. It says, I'm sorry here, I need to read better. Let's go all the way to number 5, and I'm going to read it like I'm supposed to. Somehow I skipped some stuff, and I ain't figured out how, but let's do it this way. Be careful not to parade your righteousness in front of people to be seen by them. Otherwise, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So whenever you give to the poor, don't sound a trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the street corners, to be applauded by people. I assure you, they've got their reward. But when you give to the poor, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Okay, I did get that right and wrong at the same time. God, I think, lets us skip a bunch of stuff and go back and read the stuff we skipped along with what we said. Like, God has a tendency to do clippings. He says, you will read the whole thing, but before you read the whole thing, you will read it in pieces and get a message out of the pieces, and then put the pieces back together where they were already, and then read the whole thing. It also says, if you were poor and I did you a great service and God was happy with it, you were happy with it, I was happy with it, then I don't have to say a word about it, because God's reward is its own thanks. And God says, I'm going to reward you for what you've done for Abdullah, or whatever your name is, and then that's it. You ain't got to worry about blowing a trumpet. There's too many people. Look at these politicians these days. They do one little thing right, and next thing you know, they think everybody ought to know about it. Well, knowing good and well, if you did something Christianly, God's going to get you for it and say, thank you, son, thank you, daughter. But now, if you've done something wrong about it, you go around parading it like it's some kind of a big show, God's going to get you and say, you wrong now. We can't sit there and be parading all that stuff. I mean, then it says here in number 5 down to number 9, whenever you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, because they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by people. I assure you, they've got their rewards. But when you pray, go into your private room, shut your door, and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. When you pray, don't babble like an idiot or an idolaters, or like the idolaters, since they imagine they'll be heard for their many words. Don't be like them, because your Father knows the things you need before you ask them. Okay, I've probably brought it up before, and I probably haven't, but God has a system that says He knows what you need and want before you even say anything about it. But He wants you to say something about it, so then He can say, okay, I can now do what I need to do for you because you brought it up. If you hadn't brought it up, I couldn't have done nothing about it. I already know. But see, my powers is like, it's like there's a lock on it. I can't do nothing until you ask me or talk to me about it. Like, I know that you're lost at sea, and I know you got issues, I know you got problems, but I cannot do nothing about it unless you confess those problems. And I tell you, folks, this get to the point where it's getting really messed up when people have problems and they give problems, and yet they don't understand that you can't solve those problems through God and Jesus until you confess them. The confessing is saying you're unlocking the power for God to bless you, to give you that boost of solution. You know, God says that all solution comes from being able to say, God, I have a problem, and explain what the problem is. God will tell you, I already know that, but I had to have you say it so that I could be able to do something about it, where me and you could work together to solve the problem. And that's how it goes. You can't just sit there and expect God to do certain things for you unless you let him know about the situation. I mean, I'd be like saying, I know you like to drink milk, but I can't give you that milk unless you say, please, can I have some milk? And then when I say, yes, you may, then you can go get that milk if it's my place to say anything about it. See, that's the thing. I may know something about you already. I may know you're sitting there dying for a drink of water or milk, but I can't give it to you until you say, please, may I have some milk, if I'm in control of that milk or that water. And that's how life is with God. And we get to the point where we don't understand that. What's up with this? Yes, you might hear me say things in my life you feel ashamed of because you say, how can you be the way you are and then yet preach to us? Well, I feel like that through my speaking to you, I'm speaking to myself. So while I'm trying to get you saved, I'm trying to help the savement that I have be renewed every time we speak. So every time I get with God in any form that God is approving of, it is me renewing my faith with God, my salvation, my sanctity, my salvation, my saving grace, with God, and we got to learn. If we talk about God the way we want God to be, we'll see things happen. And we would never have seen if we hadn't done that. And okay, then it says here at number 9 in Matthew 6, therefore you should pray like this: Our Father in heaven, your name be honored as holy. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. And do not bring us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever and ever. Now that's going from 9 all the way to 14. Okay, now you say, are you saying that they're saying do not be like the idolaters when you pray? Be like the man that has listened to the workers of God. And when you listen to the workers of God, it tells you how to pray. The instructions they give tells you how to pray. And if you pray the way that the workers of God tell you to pray, then you will be prayed the way God said to pray. Well, yes, that is true. We don't see that too much in this world. I've seen guys get all hurt. And now, do understand when I say this, I don't understand your definition of things, people. Sometimes I see people talking and they'll say, don't get this way, don't get that way. And I'm thinking to myself, what way are we talking about don't get, don't get, don't get, don't get? And it confuses me to no end as to, you're telling a man, don't get this way, don't get that way. And you're like, what way is it not to get? And I'm not trying to sound dirty or nothing, but I've done heard over time in history, people tell another person, like one guy tells another guy, don't get, as they say, butt hurt. Now I say to myself, you people in the modern day with your languages sometimes make me feel confused because I thought I knew the way the world worked, and then next thing I know, some of y'all come up with some crazy words to say that make no sense. I mean, yeah, I understand how you feel at times. Y'all get to the point in your life where you say, I'm going to say something, but if you don't like what I said, then that's on you. I understand that too. But we can't live in this world where we say, hey, this guy's going to die and we got to stop him from dying because, hey, quite frankly, you can't stop a man from dying. If he's going to die, he's going to die, regardless of what you do about it. But I've seen too many times people get all, as they usually say, butthurt about it because, and I don't get you people, why do y'all say these words? Do y'all know that it makes no sense to say some of this stuff? Or do y'all just say it because you think it's going to get you somewhere with God because you said some magical word that don't make no sense to half the people in it? I mean, I could be totally wrong for what I said, but if you do something that don't make no sense to somebody, you're going to have to pay the consequence of having them look you dead in the eyeballs and say, man, you make no sense with that you just told me. And that's just how it's going to be. I mean, I'm not trying to be, as they say, dissing or making fun or whatever you want to call it. But let's go back to where we were again. Okay. Now, 14 says, for if you forgive people their if you forgive people their wrongdoing, your heavenly Father will forgive you as well. But if you don't forgive people, your Father will not forgive your wrongdoing. Okay, in Matthew 6, from 16 all the way to 19, it basically says that if you can forgive people of their wrongdoings, then God will forgive you of your wrongdoings. But if you don't forgive people of their wrongdoings, like, okay, you see how the Amish are? Good example. And if you happen to be Amish, or if you happen to know Amish people, or you happen to be a Mennonite, do understand that you're my kin in Christ because you have more respect for God than what you call the English, or what we call regular people, or whatever you call them. Well, now, okay, people like that, what I'm saying is that the true Amish, the ones that are from Europe, they call people like myself the English. Okay, the ones that were originally called the English did not know God, or they do know God, but they don't know it like the Amish. The Amish is so dedicated to you, and you can go kill one of their own, and they'll go write you a letter. Some of them might write you a letter and saying, may God be with you, knowing good and well you done them a great harm. But they turn the other cheek because they know that they need God, and you need God just as much as they do. Even if they have God, you still need more God every day. And if you don't have God, they know that you need God in general. And while you're getting your dose of God, you need an extra dose every day. That may not be what they say, but it's how they feel. And I applaud them for it, because we don't even care about the aged or the elderly like we should. We don't care about God like we should, or Jesus like we should. And the Amish is sitting there with no electricity, praising God and Jesus better than we ever did on our worst day or our best day. And I'm thinking, why is it we can't live like that? Because we're too ashamed to admit that, you know what, I really believe if we took time to spend one day or 1 year or 1 month with an Amish person and their family, or even if it's just a weekend, we would probably not enjoy it, because we would see ourselves bored because we have no technology. But if you was to take and refresh your life for so many weekends, like maybe every other weekend or one weekend a year or something, you'd say to yourself, I feel like I was able to worship God during that time. Because you want to do it that way. You want to say, look, I want to be able to love God and Jesus just as good as the Amish did. Because they love God more than we ever did. And I appreciate that. I want to know there's a world out there where we love God as much as, the people that keep God sacred and holy. I mean, but a lot of us just don't do it anymore. I'm going to read a little more and then I have to stop. All right. Here we go from 16 to 19. I was doing it before, was 14 to 16. I might have said that wrong, but it is Matthew 6. It was 14 to 16. All right. Okay, Matthew 6:16 all the way to 19. Whenever you fast, don't be satisfied like the hypocrites, for they make their fasts unattractive, so their fasting is obvious to people. I assure you they've got their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your feet, so that you don't show your fasting to people, but your Father who is in secret, but to and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Okay? If you make a pledge that you'll do something to God, and God is pleased or appeased, however you want to say it, by what you said, then God is telling you, okay, you told me what you're going to do for me. So what I'm saying is, if I agree with what you said you would do for me, like a ritual, then you should keep that covenant with me. And when you do, don't make such a big deal about it. Because when you and God have a covenant together, an agreement that you will do a ritual for God that God is approving of, what God is saying is, you don't got to brag or boast about it. You ain't got to make such a big deal about it. Because God knows that you're honoring Him in a way that pleases Him. And when you do, He will be happy with it and will say, good for you, my brother, my sister, my sons, my daughters. You were doing something for me that you should have done a long time ago. You know, something where you come up with a deal, I agree with it, and then you must keep up your bargain, even if it's nothing more than a ritual. I mean, I have a ritual that I think that I should share with you because it is not a ritual to keep to myself. Okay, when I get up every morning, I refuse to eat breakfast or whatever time I get up. I refuse to eat my first meal of the day till I go to my prayer center, which is basically a shelf that I go to, and one of the levels of the shelf, it is set up as a shrine to God and Jesus. It has a picture of the Last Supper, the Ten Commandments. It has two lighthouses. It has a ceramic scroll with the Lord's Prayer on it. And I have a battery operated tea light and a bell. And what I do is turn on the battery operated tea light while the light is on. I will pray to God and Jesus and read the daily bread. And then I will turn around, and when I get through reading the daily bread and praying, I will turn around and turn off the battery operated light, ring the bell, and count to 7. When I get to 7, I'll stop ringing that bell. That to me is a ritual that I have set aside for God, and God has agreed with it and said that if I keep on with this and then ask for things that are needed, like I know I stumble with a lot of my attitude in my life because there's times that we all get this attitude where we feel like we've done wrong, but then we feel like, are we wrong by ourselves or is others wrong with us? And if we feel as others are wrong with us, we feel like, oh, we're wrong and they're wrong too. When knowing, quit worrying about their wrongs as much. Pray for their wrongs, but worry more about yours. Because you can't help another man with his problems if you ain't even faced your own problems first. Well, I'm going to have to stop right there. So I've read from the beginning of Matthew 6 all the way to Matthew 19. So it proves there that God pretty much says that if you have something you're struggling with in your modern day world, you should read the whole Bible. But you'll notice in Matthew 6 that it has a lot to do with what is going on in this world today. What's going on in the world today through all sorts of problems. And what, if you're doing, not only does it give you instructions on what not to do in your daily life, but it also gives you instructions on what to do for God. Well, my time's about up, so before we go, let's pray. It doesn't matter if you have your eyes open or closed. What you're praying with is your heart. If you pray with me, with your heart, then God will understand and help you out. I pray, dear God, I pray to God and to Jesus for not only my soul, and my heart, but for the souls and hearts of all people in this world. There are many brothers and sisters out there, even my own self, who struggle with a lot of issues daily. And God knows the problems we face daily. But what he's saying is, if we face these problems daily, we will see God work in mysterious ways, in miraculous ways, in miracle ways. And we will see those things if we ask God for those things. So I pray that God will give us the miracles, the miraculousness, and the mysteriousness that he has for us, that he has for the world. And I pray that we'll all wake up one day saying, Lord, I know this day is good. I'm feeling proud and understood because I know that with you, Lord, this day's going to be good because no one else understands me. You do. And by you understanding me, that's an understanding that's enough for me. And I wish and hope and pray that we all get our acts together, do things that we're supposed to do. And if a man is sitting out there now, and I've done it before, I'm doing it now, and I have to ask God to help me. I'll buy something off the internet, and I'll be sitting there impatient, waiting for it to come until it finally comes. And when it does, sometimes it's better than I think it is when I get it. But yet, if you stop worrying about that situation, like when's it coming, when's it coming, when's it coming, we'll see better things happening. Like we'll be able to see our more of an enjoyment for that item. And I wish and hope and pray that those worries will get off our mind. We'll stop worrying about finances, stop worrying about when is this package coming we ordered. Stop worrying about all these things, because when you stop worrying, you will see sometimes the things you were worrying about, it was already there to start with. We just worried about it in a way we shouldn't have. We started saying we shouldn't do this or we should do that when we're saying, no, what we should do is stop worrying so much about every little thing that don't look a certain way and start worrying about what is. God is in front of us. Jesus is in front of us, and we need to pray for that. And I pray we will do this, and I pray that we will seek you, God, and I pray that we will see you in everything we do. I pray that one day there'll be a miracle, and someone will be able to say, God has provided you with all the tools you need to be not only a minister on the internet, but also a minister in a building. That there'll be a building waiting for me, or there'll be the tools waiting for me, or whatever God's will is for me to be able to be a building minister. Because I want to be able to not only serve y'all online, but also serve y'all in a building too, no matter if it be big or small. I'd love to see some folks be able to live out their practical fantasies of living in different ways. If they want to live in an apartment, if they're able to, go for it. I want to be able to, if they want to be able to live in a tiny house or in a bus or in a plane, train, automobile, anything that they can live in, let them. As long as they're serving God and doing what God said to earn that reward that He has given them on their living circumstances. I pray for all people. I pray for the military. I pray for the police department. I pray for everybody who's got authority over all. And I pray that they'll use the authority to protect us, save us, keep us from harm's way, and not try to hurt us, and not try to be beating us down like dogs and bring us up like the people that God wants us to be. I want to know that the next man in the White House or woman is going to be a Christian, and not somebody who's going to sit there and keep doing wrong and then turn around and think that if they can say something good about God, it'll justify all the sin they caused. Because I wish and hope and pray that we don't sit there and talk about people badly. We talk about them goodly, and we make them feel good. We make them know that they're good. And we do for people what God said. And I wish and hope and pray that we never go poor, we never go hungry, we never go homeless, and that we always have a way to get around and have family and friends that'll help us if we're down and out, and that they'll turn to us and say, now we'll help you. Now the next step is what you and God agree on, and get right with God. And I wish and hope and pray that every single man in this world and every single woman in this world, if you're looking for a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband or wife, I pray that God will send someone your way, and that you'll be able to say, thank you, God and Jesus, for being the almighty Cupid, for looking after my heart and looking for someone for me to be with that is a good Christian person. And I wish and hope and pray that when you go to church, that every time you go to church, somebody new comes and somebody old comes to church. New as in someone that's never been there before, and old as somebody that will do the thing that God said to do. And I tell you, folks, if you look at me and I look at you the way God said, then I wish and hope and pray we see each other God's way and we say, hallelujah, brothers. We need to talk to you today about God and talk about God the way God said to, not play head games, not play these games of, I don't know what you're talking about. And I wish and hope and pray that we get things straight with you, God, and Jesus before it's too late. I pray we get things right. I pray we get it holy, sanctified, richified, and get it to where we know that God is there for us. And I pray this in your precious name. And I pray that a miracle will come to everybody who is listening to me. I pray a miracle will come to everybody around the world. I pray for a miracle in my life and to the lives of everybody. My friends, my neighbors, my acquaintances, everybody of anything to do with me, past, present, and future. And I pray for miracles for the whole entire world. And I pray this in the precious name of God and Jesus, I pray. I hope you prayed this with me, because if you have, you should see a better frame of life, better way of life. And I wish and hope and pray that we all get it straight with God before it's too late. And I hope you do. I hope we all get it right. And I pray that we all do, because if we do, we'll see a better way of life for us all. Thank you for attending the Christian Hearts Christian Fellowship online ministry. And I'm the pastor, Brother Isaac David Brigham. God bless. Have a nice day. And we'll see you again bright and early in the morning on Sunday.